the setup.
You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in to another live 3-Ma. I say that as if we do this all the time. We've done this once this year and worked out pretty well. K-State beat Oklahoma. Of course, we are here in Arlington, ready for the Big 12 championship game tomorrow, 11 a.m. between K-State and TCU. BoomerJack's here in Arlington is our home away from home. So if you are watching this, you're in Arlington, on your way, make sure you come and hang out with us. We've got the whole crew here, plus a fun little guest. Obviously, you know Derek Young from K-State Online. We got Cole Manbeck over there rocking the sweet lavender jersey. And our man, KSU_fan, a.k.a. Jimmy, is here. I don't know, Jimmy, if you want me using your full name or just KSU fan.
Jimmy's fine.
Jimmy, all right. We got Jimmy/KSU_fan. He's famous on Twitter as KSU_fan. Great with the analytics. And we're going to talk some cats with him here tonight. So we are excited to do so. Make sure if you're watching live, if you are following along with us, hit us with your questions, your comments. We are certainly here for all of that as we hang out with you here for the next hour or so. Really looking forward to that and totally here for interacting with you as well. So appreciate all of you who either are here or are watching live. But, man, a lot of energy in here, boys. I mean, I'm rocking I got my Felix hoodie here. Shout out to King Felix. Go get it from the NIL website that he has. But I think can all feel the energy. I know I was pumped up. I told Cole when I got into his van on the way here, I was like, man, I've been watching hype videos for the last hour. Like I'm ready to go. DY, are you been watching hype videos? Where are you at on this thing right now?
I'm not watching hype videos yet. Are you nervous?
I'm really not nervous yet. Cole's been talking about being nervous. I'm not nervous. I'm just like amped. Like, let's go, man.
I mean, I wasn't nervous. I was more nervous driving through Dallas traffic while these two, my wife and John, stared at their phones and didn't help me there as I missed an exit. That was when I was most nervous. No, my wife was trying to help me out, but John was not my help in the passenger seat.
I didn't know that I was supposed to be.
So that's when I was most nervous, but I'm feeling pretty good, honestly. Like, soaking up the spotlight, Kansas State in this game, I would say I was much more nervous the last couple of weeks just to get a chance at this opportunity. And now that they're actually on this platform, the nerves haven't necessarily hit yet. I mean, a little bit tonight, but I'll feel it in the morning. I won't sleep well tonight.
I'm good.
You going to sleep okay?
I'm going to sleep just fine. I think they're going to win. So
so do I, man. I mean, that's the part. I have like this quiet confidence. Yeah, I don't know, quiet confidence about the game.
Yeah, I really have started to feel that way as the week went on, just looking at the numbers. And, I feel good about the Cats' chances tomorrow. But the moment of getting to another Big 12 title has hit me a little bit this week. Like, we don't do this a lot.
Yeah.
Like, we do it. We've done it a lot more than some other Big 12 programs, but we haven't done it a lot. So the first time in 10 years it's kind of cool to be in this moment.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, it is. It's been like a once-a-decade occurrence in 2003, obviously. Then you transition 2012. Now, 2012, you didn't even get this kind of experience. It's weird. It was fun having that game at home and being able to do it in front of the home crowd and all that, but the Baylor game happening right before and then a week off to think about that. It was a weird kind of vibe going into that game. So this is different. Like, this is more of a celebratory thing where, no matter what happens tomorrow, we still get tonight. We get the week of buildup. We get college game day. I saw the equipment guys out there like handing a sleeveless hoodie out to Pat McAfee. I mean, you get those kind of moments now that you wouldn't have gotten then. And it is, yes, the first time it's happened in a while. So there is a lot, I think, to soak in. And that would be a part of my message. Like, just make sure that you soak all that in and take it in, because it is not something that not only do we not do this often, but how many of us thought after the Tulane game when I'm sitting in the freaking peanut watching people cheer on KU against Houston and K-State's losing to Tulane, I did not think that I would be sitting here right now. So even just the way the season has gone makes me appreciate this a little more.
It's been an interesting adventure. You had that game against Tulane where you probably felt that, like, there's no way
going through the Big 12 7-2 after losing to
Yeah.
Tulane. Little behold, Tulane's pretty good, actually. Now, Kansas State still should have won that game. Actually, you kind of look back on the season, you think, at least I walk away, especially with the Will Howard thing and how it developed. I come away thinking you really could have beaten Tulane and Texas and finished the year 11-1. That was right in front of them, I think, that they let that slip through their fingers. Now, the TCU game, I think they were kind of beaten that game just a little bit. A lot of it was the injuries, and now they get the rematch to kind of avenge that loss. But that's the only loss that felt real to me.
I try to look at the Tulane game as it maybe changed the course of the season for the better. And that's the way I look at it, because K-State's offense changed after that. There was a spark to this team, and it seemed things really took off from there. So I try to take it from a positive angle. I do wonder where Kansas State would be if they had lost one of those games. Like if they beat Texas, for example, which Texas is clearly respected in all the metrics. If they had gotten Texas and went 10-2 going into this game with a chance to knock off top 4 TCU, could K-State be playing for a playoff spot today? I mean, that's an interesting question to me, because
they've gotten a lot of respect as a 3-loss team.
They have. I still have serious doubts that at 2 losses they would be in the. They might be in the conversation, right? It would be kind of like Baylor last year going into the Big 12 championship game, right? Like they were
Tennessee right now.
Yeah, I mean, like Baylor last year was like on the periphery of the there was a little bit of conversation about it, but people I don't think really felt like it would happen. Here's the problem. Look at the 2 schools that would still be in front of them. It's Ohio State and Alabama. I mean, like, you think K-State's really getting a boost over Ohio State or Alabama?
But K-State, the difference is K-State has this extra opportunity to do it here on the national spotlight. It's an extra data point against a top 4 team. Like, while Tennessee is sitting at 10-2 at 7th, K-State would jump a lot of those teams. Now, the argument would be, could K-State jump a TCU that they would have split the matchup on the season and has 1 less loss? I think that's where the argument would be, that TCU would probably still stay in front of K-State.
They would have to take 2 Big 12 teams. That wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, think about that. 2 Big 12 teams in the playoff. I'm not a fan. You have any thoughts there on the playoff combo?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting to see one of those scenarios happen. But I think Cole is right. Those losses taught this team a lot of lessons to get them to this point, and then to just overcome. And, we had to hope for a Texas loss. We got that.
Right.
But then we took care of business on what we had to do down the stretch, especially that Baylor game, which was probably the most up in the air game coming in and down the stretch. We went and, drilled 31-3, really proved that we belonged and earned our trip to this spot. So that was a good deal.
Was that the most complete game from Kansas State, beating Baylor and Waco 31-3?
Yeah,
I think it might have been.
Because Oklahoma State was just so broken down and beaten. Yeah. I felt like that's weird to say, because it was 48-0 over Oklahoma State, and did they finish 7-5? So they finished a game better than Baylor.
Yeah, they still beat Iowa State, right?
The impressive thing about the way Kansas State handled that Baylor game is, I mean, most people like me didn't see Texas losing again, right? And Kansas State went into that Baylor game with a very business-like performance. It would have been easy to be down on themselves, thinking they're probably not going to get to the Big 12 championship. And that Texas game was being played at the same time as the K-State game, so they didn't know what the outcome was going to be. But they came into that game looking like they were on a mission and dictated that game from the start and dominated. And, then we were able to kick back and watch that 4th quarter of the TCU-Texas game, and everything fell into place. And K-State, controlled the last 2 games in dominant fashion, really, and took care of business. It's very impressive to me that obviously, I didn't think Texas was going to lose, but for K-State to still go 3-0 down the stretch with 2 of those games, being on the road against bowl-quality teams in KU and Baylor, I mean, I thought K-State really handled its own business down the stretch. That was impressive.
There's some extra commentary that I can add to that Baylor game. After the Baylor game, we're in the media room, and we're talking to the players, and we just got done talking to Chris Kleiman. The TCU-Texas game is going on. And I remember Deuce Vaughn getting in the room, and all of a sudden he sees that the game is on one of the computers that's in the media room. So he's watching the final minute or 2 of that game with us. And as soon as the game's done and TCU has won, it's like time to take care of our own business now.
Okay, all right, that's a nice little anecdote. You want to know what happened the last time I was in that room in Waco?
What's that?
It was 2018. Does that give it away for anybody here?
Oh, yeah.
It involves another friend of ours.
Yeah, Kellis, the special teams thing. Yeah.
It was he got next questioned by Snyder like 4 times. Was it about special teams?
Because he was asking about special teams.
Okay.
They lost the game on special teams, that one too.
So what's funny is
the final was 40-34. Alex Barnes, big game.
Hit a huge game. What's funny is I was like, wait, I was like, you're thinking of the Zuber
TCU.
muffed punt, which was later that year, also involving special teams, also with a press conference meltdown. So, yeah, 2018 was a wild time.
You bring up Alex Barnes. John and I were actually talking on the way down. And, Jimmy, this is where you'll bring in good insight on this. We were talking about DJ Giddens and, how good of a back he could be. And we were trying to think of somebody comparable to him. And you coached DJ in high school at Junction City and have been around him. Alex Barnes was a name that we thought of when we watch him run. Yeah. It kind of reminds you of Alex Barnes. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. DJ's not quite as thick, but he runs very similar, very strong runner. What has impressed me about DJ this year is his ability to catch the ball. I mean, he had a great catch against TCU in the first game.
Yeah.
And we've seen that a little bit more even down the stretch. So I don't remember Alex Barnes catching a lot of balls. He had a few. But, DJ's, he's going to be that kind of bigger back. Josh Scobie, maybe not quite that good, but that kind of guy that's a bigger back, fast, and gets vertical, gets downhill, and brings people with him.
Even the KU game, they leaked him out of the backfield on a 3rd and 4, and he made a difficult catch kind of behind him and still got upfield, got the first down. And I've noticed they like to use him and Deuce now in a lot of split back sets as they've gotten more comfortable with him and utilize him in the passing game. They're not very predictable when both those guys are on the field, actually.
Mike McCoy. That's what it is. It's Mike McCoy.
Does he have the same ceiling as we thought Mike McCoy did?
Yeah, I think so. Because Mike McCoy wasn't even this far along when he was this age, because he was so further back from a mental standpoint as well. McCoy maybe a little bit burst, maybe a little bit more speed because he's a little different, but DJ Giddens is not a whole lot different.
So we were talking about this in context of running back 1, RB1 next year. Like, is DJ Giddens ready to handle that, take on that load? What do they have to do? Do they have to go get a transfer back? I mean, I'm just saying, I saw Deuce Vaughn getting a Porsche to drive around. That's nice. He wasn't at senior day. They didn't announce him with that. Are we sure that DJ Giddens is going to be RB1 next year?
I think I think Deuce Vaughn's had that NIL agreement with that dealership for a while.
Okay.
He's had multiple vehicles.
I think timing to throw a Porsche at him, it's not a bad time to throw a Porsche at him.
I think it alternates what he's driving every 3 months, to be quite honest. But at the same time, I will say this. It is not a certainty that he's not at Kansas State next year.
That's a lot of knots. Okay, so you're saying there's a chance. Can we just put it that way? So you're saying there's a chance.
That feels good. That feels pretty good right now on a Friday night for the Big 12 Championship. DY is saying Deuce Vaughn's coming back. Just joking. He didn't say that.
Well, okay, is Deuce another thing Cole and I talked about, because we had a lot of time to talk.
You guys talked a lot.
As Vanessa tweeted from behind us, she's sitting there just listening to us do like a 7-hour show on the way here. Deuce, we've had this conversation. Like, is he totally himself? Seems maybe a little beat up. Obviously, a phenomenal play, the 80-yard screen catch and run. But there was, I think one of the most shocking plays to me of the entire season was the 3rd play of the game against Kansas, where they get him like out in space one-on-one, where he needs like 2 yards for a first down, and he gets planted right there. And I thought I told Cole, I was as nervous as I was the entire game on Saturday, because I was like, oh, God, KU just did that 3 and out, planting Deuce one-on-one, when you think like this might go to the house. I don't know. Like, what are you seeing from Deuce right now in some of these situations?
He doesn't look like he's got quite the speed that he's had, and he's had situations where he typically makes people miss that he hasn't the last couple of games. But maybe he was just playing 4D chess with that kid, because that's the same guy that muffed the punt on the next play. So maybe he was just getting in his head to make a bigger play so Malik could score the next play on offense.
He got caught from behind on that screen too. So
he did. I thought he was going to score on that one.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's not 100%, but he's still really freaking good.
Still very good.
On that, Phillip Brooks blocked the wrong guy too. If he would have kept going downfield, he turned around to block guy behind him. If he goes downfield, he probably shields off that guy. But he also probably thought Deuce was going to outrun him as well at that point. So I get it, but. Yeah, that was a shocking play on that 3rd and 2, because when I saw that break open one-on-one, I thought Deuce might house that thing. I thought it was going 50-plus at least. We're so used to seeing him break that and make that guy miss. It was quite shocking. Fortunately, KU muffed the punt on the very next play. Well, who knows where that game goes, though, if they catch that punt cleanly and they go down the field and score like they did on their first drive, if K-State's down 7-0. I think the feeling in the stadium changes a little bit, and there's a nervous energy. I mean, heck, I had a nervous energy only up 9. I mean, I can't imagine what I would have felt like if KU's up 7-0 out of the gate.
Your nervous energy the last month, when you get nervous, you get a little bit more negative. Kurtz has been terrified and paranoid of Kansas all year.
It was only that game, really. I mean,
if you listen to 3 Mile from start to finish this season, you probably think Kansas went 10-2.
Well, okay, so does Eli Drinkwitz, just to be fair.
I like it. Good
so
call.
does Eli Drinkwitz and Missouri.
Oh,
They think Kansas went 13-0, man. They thought this was 2007 Kansas. Todd Racing walking through that door.
Poor Tucker drives all the way down here and has to still deal with this stuff. He's putting in all the work getting this thing set up.
Hey, Eli Drinkwitz confirmed via Twitter that he's not afraid of Kansas.
Yeah, okay, but here's the thing. Let's talk this. All right. So Drink throws that tweet out. Is that really they're going to play the game, or is that just excellent marketing because they know it's already done? They're not going to play the game, and so now you come back around and be like, oh, no, wait, we actually were willing to do it. Right? I mean, that was my other thought. Like, that might just be some good marketing.
Oh, it totally is. I mean, listen to every Missouri, even Tucker, talk about Drinkwitz. He's all about marketing. That's all he is.
I mean, look, maybe we need to let Tucker come on and speak Missouri here, at least let him have a chance.
Honor.
As I think about John watching hype videos, I look over at his computer and he's got the looks like Big 12 championship video, a little Wade in the water going.
It's because I clipped the Wade in the water part because I'll be honest. When we win tomorrow, I don't need another stand up for the champions. I don't. That was 20 years ago, guys. I don't need another one, but the beginning of that video is badass when they're walking out doing the Wade in the water thing. So, I clipped that part. I don't know. Straw poll. Stand up for the champions if they win?
I think we get something new.
Okay.
I hope we get something new.
Okay. Yeah. Stand up for the champions?
How about, what does it take to be number 1? What was that song back in the day?
Also 20 years old, D.Y. Also 20 years old. Cole, stand up for the champions.
Little Ashanti with it.
Ashanti. Yeah. Ashanti?
Ashanti.
Is she Italian now?
Ashanti? I don't know. What does Ashanti have a song that can go with it?
No, but I think you just invented the name of a wine.
Ashanti.
Should I carry a sign to College Game Day tomorrow with Ashanti? Big Ashanti fan here, misspell it. I don't know. Anyways, I digress.
She's singing the national anthem because Brett Yormark is awesome, and he got DJ Khaled to shout out K-State, man. How about that? I just want to say, for those of you that have been listening to me for a long time, back in the old days of the game, we did a little play on DJ Khaled with Khalid Duke, where we had Mitch yelling DJ Khalid, like DJ Khaled goes DJ Khaled. So, it all came full circle. You liking Brett Yormark's Big 12 here? What we get, the Big 12 championship game?
I would like more DJ Khaled.
I thought he might have been performing a halftime show when I saw that pitch come out.
He's a DJ. What's he going to do?
I don't know. That TV contract needs a couple more zeros before they can pay DJ Khaled to come.
Well, he was in Pitch Perfect 3, I think, John. Did you know that?
Wow.
I sure did not.
Oh, and I thought Cole was
Jimmy
up the rear and
Jimmy is like, why did I agree to come on with these guys?
This isn't really analytics.
Jimmy thought he was coming on to talk X's and O's football here, and now we're talking about Ashanti and
the first Pitch Perfect was pretty good.
I really enjoyed it.
I have no Pitch Perfect opinions.
My wife and I went to Pitch Perfect 1 and 2, and I really enjoyed it, honestly. Haven't been to a movie in 4 years, though. So
I haven't seen a one.
I haven't either.
All right.
My guy, DY.
We're probably losing listeners here. Hey, by the way,
we did. We dropped 2 listeners. Oh. I can see the number in the corner since we started talking about it.
Well, we'll talk a little football here, but leave comments on what you think is going to happen tomorrow, what you think of K-State. Leave us some questions. Drop us some questions. We'll try to get to them on the show. And remember to subscribe to the KCSNU channel. If you don't, all right. What kind of game did Senate have against TCU? Well, we're looking at what he did against TCU in Fort Worth.
Well,
he got hurt.
This is probably a nod to me. In the preview, I said he had a good game against TCU. Contrary to my reporting, he did not.
He didn't catch a ball, did he?
He didn't catch a ball against TCU, and he got hurt
in the third quarter. That's when it was just piling up. I looked down, and I'm like, oh, my God, now Ben Sinnott's on the ground, and he didn't return.
You're right. I had forgotten. I forgot that Sinnott got hurt. That was one of those moments where it was like, that was the our pets' heads are falling off. It was like that moment where it's like we've already had all this bad stuff happening, and then Sinnott gets out, and I'm like, who else can get hurt? Like, our pets' heads are falling off. What is happening?
And it looked bad. I mean, he was down on the ground in pain. I mean, I was thinking it could be something multi-week, and he was back the very next week, and he really exploded soon after that game.
5 or more catches. He's getting 5 or more catches tomorrow.
Well, yeah, so after TCU, He goes 1 for 25 against Oklahoma State, but then 3 for 44, 7 for 89, 2 touchdowns, 3 for 85, 1 touchdown. So, yeah, Sinnott really took off after that.
I guess 5's a little ambitious then, but I'm going 5. 5 catches.
5 catches?
5.
Well, that's first team all Big 12. Then Sinnott to you.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I wrote that he had a big game against TCU earlier in the year, so I'm not exactly a truth teller.
Well, you're just predicting he's going to have a big game tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. So Sinnott, sophomore. Okay, sophomore. I was like, I'm not even sure what.
He's a junior.
It says sophomore on ESPN.
He's a sophomore, yeah.
I don't know.
K-State lists him as a sophomore. Would you say he's the Jimmy, what do you think? Is he the best tight end that Chris Kleiman's had?
Oh, yeah. He's better than.
Well, you can make an argument. Briley Moore. Why do you look at me like
Briley
that?
Moore was pretty good.
Briley would be the one.
Bebe was really good.
Yeah, when he was healthy. Yeah.
But Ben Sinnott.
Close.
Gosh.
The thing is, they can do so much with Ben Sinnott. I mean, they did it with Moore and Bebe, but Ben Sinnott, I mean, he was first team, all Big 12 fullback?
Yeah.
But he lines up at fullback like once a game. You know, he's at H-back probably 80% of the time. He's split out probably 20% of the time, and then he's at tight end a handful of times a game.
What idiot was complaining early in the year about him splitting out at wideout? I mean, there was some idiot on this show that was bickering after the Tulane game about Ben Sinnott out at wideout. Yeah. That guy does not know what he's talking about.
Was it the same guy that at his lake house was like gassing up Sammy Wheeler?
Sammy Wheeler has come on strong down the stretch.
Sammy Wheeler's had 3.
I know Sammy Wheeler's been great, but I'm saying,
what about the guy that took a shot at Will Howard at Big 12 basketball media day?
I have come back and called myself an idiot for that like 8 times.
That's worse than the Ben Sinnott shade.
Yeah.
Oh yes, far worse. Of course, yes. Whose side are you on here, man?
I don't know, but you're going to cast stones at other people. I'm going to throw them back at you.
All right, fair enough. No, I mean Sammy Wheeler. Honestly, I was watching the hype video that K-State put out today, and I was like, oh yes, Sammy's had a couple of nice moments here the last couple of weeks. I mean, it just feels like
he's sneaky.
They've got a lot of sneaky weapons now on this team.
He literally was sneaky to the point they didn't guard him on that one touchdown.
Well, the last couple games, he's been wide open on a couple passes downfield. The West Virginia game, he had the big one. He also had a touchdown catch against TCU in this matchup on a wheel, or not a wheel, but this little pop over the middle, pop pass right over the middle. Yeah, big joke, right? So yeah, they're getting good production right now from the tight end position between those two in the pass catching game, and then obviously Sinnott has been a complete player in the blocking game too. He's gotten a lot better at blocking as well. He's the versatile guy that I think fits this offense. They've really been looking for. He's not just a pure tight end. So,
well, I want to touch on this really quick because to me this became more of a topic in my mind, or something I thought about more coming out of the Kansas game, because it seemed like the official propaganda stance from Kansas was KU is winning this game next year because they have so much coming back, and look how tough and tight that game was for most of it, even though it was a 2-score game virtually the entire way through. I was like, all right, well, let me think about next year. I mean, you said, maybe a chance with Deuce, but even if you assume Deuce is gone, I mean, Will Howard's been this total revelation. It's not like K-State walked in there with rent-a-quarterback Adrian Martinez for a year and won that game. No, I mean, it was with Will Howard, who's been 1A, 1B with Duggan since he came on halfway through the season. You're going to have Ben Sinnott back. I mean, we'll see what shakes out with the receivers and who stays and who doesn't. It seems like the future of the offensive line's pretty bright. I don't know. I'm just feeling a lot better about next year than I was before, even a couple of weeks ago. I guess the point here.
I think that is fair. I think there is reason, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, offensively. Defensively will be.
Defense is, yes. I'm a little worried because look back at the first meeting with TCU. When you're up 28-10, when does that game turn? It's not really when Will Howard got hurt.
Daniel Green.
It's when Daniel Green got hurt. This is his last regular season game, if you count this as a regular season. Maybe not. But, he has this game left and a bowl game left, and he's done. Daniel Green ain't walking back through that door. Austin Moore trailed off a little bit this year. I mean, what are you going to do at linebacker? Because you're a far different team without Daniel Green. Now, they did beat Oklahoma State 48-0 without Daniel Green, but you also had a week to prepare for life without Daniel Green. When you didn't know that you were going to be without Daniel Green, you lose an 18-point lead to TCU, and it kind of shapes your season a little bit.
I think Jay Clifton has been playing well. They got who's the JUCO? Aren't they after somebody too? They're looking at a JUCO linebacker or something?
Yeah, they're looking at one.
Yeah.
They should be looking at one if they're not. Yes.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
There was a JUCO linebacker.
They can plug a hole with the JUCO linebacker or a transfer linebacker.
I mean, they can plug. I mean, hey, look, you can plug. You can plug in Jay Clifton. You can plug in Gavin Forshea. You can go get Terry Kurtz.
Are we done on Forshea?
No, I'm just saying, but he doesn't play the same position.
Okay. Okay.
Gavin Verche doesn't play that position. Jake Clifton is not Daniel Green. Terry Kirksey, if they get him out of Hutch, is not Daniel Green. If they sign Asa Newsom, high schooler out of Iowa, that can play pretty early, I think, he's not Daniel Green. Whoever you are going to get, you're downgrading from Daniel Green, probably significantly, no matter what.
I think Jake Clifton could be a pretty darn good player next year. Has Daniel Green had as good of a year this year as maybe expected? He
was not on any of the all Big 12 teams.
He was first team all Big 12 preseason.
I think we know how good Daniel Green is by the way we look as a defense when he's not on the field.
I mean, look, I love Daniel Green. I mean, I'm not here to throw shade at him. I think Jake Clifton has a bright future. I think Toby
he does, but
what about Toby?
Next year, he's going to be okay next year. Daniel Green was not that good as a sophomore or a freshman. It's going to be a couple years. I'm just saying, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Daniel Green's the only player that they can't probably plug and play, right, to replace at an adequate level. They do pretty good at nose guard. Like Eli Huggins has meant a lot to this team, but you could probably find a nose guard that does a good job. I think Daniel Green's the one that's the toughest to replace. They might have already replaced Julius Brents.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say is they're due for some good luck to find a linebacker because, they lost that on 2 transfers last year.
And the one before.
And they've done well with safety. So you would think with their track record with transfers, at some point they're going to land a linebacker that can play. So that's it's optimism on my part for sure. But I think they're going to land somebody at some point that can plug and play at linebacker spot, which they haven't done yet.
Yeah, they're due for good luck because if you want to rely on a transfer, which that's what everybody does. It's the transfer portal. But Brandon Jennings didn't play a snap.
Yeah.
God, I forgot about Brandon Jennings.
Will Honus didn't play a snap.
Sean Robinson
didn't play a snap. Go back to the year before, Eric Munoz didn't play a snap. Not exactly a sterling performance here in recruiting transfer linebackers.
What are you laughing about over there?
Nothing. I was looking at Tucker. Tucker and I were having some nonverbal moments.
Now aside from linebacker, and everybody can point out some clear evidence, they've nailed it in the transfer portal, junior college level, at every position that they've had to nail it. And that's why they're in the Big 12 championship game. Linebacker, they're scraping by still because Daniel Green is still here because of COVID-19.
I think they're going to have a lot of success in the portal. I think this could be their best off-season in the portal, not only because of the success this season, but because of the continued success with guys that have transferred here. That, you look at Julius Brents, you look at Josh Hayes, Kobe Savage, even though I know he's a junior college player that came in. They've had so much success with these guys that I just feel like they're going to be an attractive option, and they're going to be able to sell playing time. So, I think that's a positive, and some of these guys maybe play on Sundays too, and that's attractive guys. So, yeah, I think it's hard to foresee what's going to happen next year just because the transfer portal is so, KU's going to have guys that leave their program. K-State's going to have some guys that probably leave. I don't foresee anybody that's a huge difference maker leaving K-State as of now, but you never know how these things are going to shake out.
There'll probably be at least one. I don't think it's going to be tough for a team to get away without losing one difference maker in the transfer portal. I just don't see that happening, to be quite honest. I think you're going to lose at least one that's a difference maker. And you're like, oh, what's going on? Like, well, that's life in college athletics right now.
But even some of these, I'm even blanking on his name. Who was the safety that left that we kind of freaked out about because we were like, oh, that was Marvin Martin. We're like, all right, that was the young guy who showed some promise. They're in a lot of trouble, and then they just found like 17 safeties to plug and play, and they've been great. So
yeah, T. Denson, I think, was probably worse than Marvin Martin.
Yeah, and you're right. They lost T. Denson too.
He didn't even play this year, did he, at Purdue?
I'm not sure. Marvin Martin, by the way, prayers up to him. I think he's still in a bad shape. So
not good. All right, I want to get we have Jimmy here mainly to get into the analytics side of things. I want to get his opinion on this matchup, but we do have to tell you about something really cool. If you paid attention to our social media earlier, you saw the Deuce Vaughn football that is being raffled off. We've got a really cool announcement here. It's part of the holiday raffle and toy drive we're doing at KC Sports Network over the past week. New addition to the 27 prizes that are available. This one specifically for you Cat fans. Deuce Vaughn, autographed football. Whether or not he comes back, dude's going to be an NFL running back someday. A la Darren Sproles is going to be on College Game Day tomorrow. We're selling raffle tickets through Tuesday, which you can purchase through the KC Sports Network Venmo account. One ticket is $20. So one ticket for $20 to get a chance to win the Deuce Vaughn football. 10 tickets is $100. You could also have lunch with Colin Saunders of the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes jersey, tons of other stuff that you can see here. All the money raised goes to a great, great cause. We're buying presents for Operation Breakthrough's Christmas store. Great organization. Our goal is to raise $20,000 through KCSN. And hey, We're pretty close. $16,000 right now. We need to get to 20. So again, one ticket, $20, 10 tickets, $100. You can win a Deuce Vaughn autographed football. Lots of other really cool prizes. Buy some tickets, have a chance to win cool stuff. Help kids in the process. Have a great Christmas as we head into the holiday season. Get all the details you need on our social channels at KC Sports Network or in the description of this show on YouTube. So cool stuff there. Excited to see that from Deuce. You know that guy's going to be a star. You know he'll be out there in the NFL for a long time. That'll be a cool thing to have up on your mantle if you do wind up with that. All right, a lot, Jimmy, of the analytics that I have seen tell us that this is going to be a really close game. I mean, I was looking at like stats of war, Parker, his model. It was like, 31-30, something really close like that. It seems like every computer model I've seen has this game very, very close. I would say 70 to 80% of most of the prognosticators I'm seeing are picking TCU here and not paying that quite as much mind. How do the numbers analyze these two teams?
Yeah, every metric that I've seen that picks games has this game like 31-30, 32-31. Some have K-State, some have TCU. So it's very much up in the air. I think the metrics recognize the improvement in K-State's offense. I listened to your pre-pod about this game, and Cole mentioned the increase in the explosiveness of K-State's offense, and mentioned that going into the TCU game, we were 131 out of 131 teams in passing explosiveness. And just if you take the 6 weeks and the 6 games since then, K-State's passing offense is number 3.
It's crazy
in
staggering.
Explosiveness national. So you've gone from the worst team to one of the best teams as far as explosiveness goes. The funny thing is the rushing game explosiveness for K-State has dropped, but still the overall explosiveness for the offense is still top 15 in the country in that span. So you've seen that increase. You've also seen success rate increase because K-State's been funny this year. Our success rate has been lower. It's been average or below average in both the run game and the pass game. So that's where the explosiveness has been a big deal for us. But the passing game success rate has also risen up into the 30s or 40s during that same span. So we've been really efficient with the passing game and explosive with the passing game, which makes us tougher to defend. And then you throw in our running game, you still have Deuce Vaughn. Even though we're not always explosive or efficient, you know you're going to get 2 or 3 20, 30-yard runs from Deuce Vaughn in the game. And so I think that's what we're looking at. We had the 47-yard run last time against TCU. Deuce had another 20-yard run against TCU last time. So you're going to get a couple of those. If you keep that passing game effectiveness, both in efficiency and explosiveness, that makes us really tough to defend. And I think TCU is also one of the worst explosiveness defenses as far as the passing game goes in the country as well. So, Cole could probably jump in on that.
This is all you, Jimmy. I mean, I steal this stuff from you, and I try to credit you on the podcast because I'm always the one peppering you with the questions to try and make sure I'm understanding and interpreting the data correctly. So it's all you. Credit to you, and we wanted to have you on because we really value everything that you have to say about this. And so, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't these the 2 most explosive offenses in the Big 12?
KU's in the top. Us, TCU, and KU are the top 3.
Because
and it's been that way pretty much all year. I mean, we've come into the conversation the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, so I went through all of TCU's plays. So in Big 12 play, 53 plays of 20 or more yards. K-State 48 plays of 20 or more yards, but K-State's ran less plays, so they're right around 7% of their total plays go for around 20 plus yards. But over the last 6 weeks, like you mentioned, K-State's actually been more explosive than TCU.
Yeah, we have, and ours is better.
And you mentioned the explosive plays. This is one of the keys to the game we talked about on Power Cat Game Day, actually, that'll air tomorrow, is we talked about, TCU's defense giving up explosives. To me, this game comes down to who can limit the least amount of explosive plays, because you think back to the previous matchup in Fort Worth, while K-State only gave up 4 plays or 20 or more yards, 3 of them were huge changing plays in the game. The 55-yard pass to Quentin Johnson, which Julius Brents got hurt on. That's the only reason that happened. The 65-yard pass on a 3rd and 6 on the first drive of the game to Darius Davis. And to me, maybe the most important one was the Kendre Miller 50-yard run when K-State was up 28-10 and had him pinned at the 10-yard line right before half. And he busts that 50-yarder on the very first play, and they end up getting that touchdown. Those were the 3 really big explosives in that game. But K-State is a far better team defensively at preventing explosive plays. I think K-State's given up 38 plays of 20 or more yards. You look at that TCU offense, 43 touchdowns scored in Big 12 play. 20 of them came on explosives of 20 or more yards. I went through all their numbers. And so if you can limit some of those big plays and make them drive the length of the field, like a 10, 12-play drive, I think you got a chance to force them into a mistake. And that's something they haven't done. TCU just doesn't make many mistakes, but it's because they make so many big plays.
Yeah. I mean, these are the best 2 teams in the league at taking care of the ball, too. 1 and 2 as far as turnover rate goes. So, and a lot of people think TCU is due. Like, they have been able to, I mean, and I was listening to Parker's podcast, and he was pretty pro TCU in it, but he did mention that really TCU is due for a game where Max Dugan makes a mistake or two that he hasn't made all year. They put the ball on the ground. There's so much luck involved sometimes in turnovers as far as how the ball bounces when it hits the ground, such things like that. And TCU hasn't had that issue. That's why they're 12-0. And K-State has had that issue a little bit more, and that's probably a big reason why we have 3 losses. But at some point that's going to turn, especially with a team like TCU that's kind of come out of nowhere. I know we don't like to bring this up, but to me, this reminds me of 1998. We are Texas A&M. TCU is us in that scenario, and I could see that kind of game happening.
You know what it reminds me a little bit? It's different. The K-State style is different. I look at that 2011 K-State team that won so many close games, and they got to, 10 wins in the regular season, got to the Cotton Bowl against Arkansas. I think about this TCU team. They've just had a little bit more of a break. Now, they've blown the doors off some teams as well, but the way that they've kind of toyed with fire throughout the season, I mean, there's some games that were coin flip type games with the outcome that they ended up pulling out of the fire. I've been feeling like they were due all year, and then they just constantly somehow find a way, but it feels like that has to run out at some point. And it feels like that could be tomorrow because K-State could be the team that could exploit that. And, K-State's a team that's forced 22 turnovers, 21 turnovers on the year. 22, DY says. So, and obviously K-State's taking care of the ball very well this year. So a close game like this, turnovers, special teams, it's going to be a huge part of the game.
What is, I'm curious, you brought up listening to Parker's podcast, Stats of War. Is it still Purple Theory or did they change that?
Purple Theory
podcast. Okay. What is the TCU perspective on this thing right now?
It was funny because it's kind of mixed. They both, he and his co-host Grant, I think is his co-host names. They both had apprehension and fear going into this game, and both mentioned that they could easily see TCU losing this game. But then my thing was their best and worst case scenario. Their worst case scenario was K-State winning by about 10 points. But their best case scenario was TCU winning by 30. So, it didn't quite add up to them being that cautious going into the game. But I think they do have a little bit of a sense of at some point the shoe's going to drop. And we've been on a magical run. And, Parker's thought TCU's ceiling was going to be 8-4 this year. And obviously they've surpassed that by a lot. So it was kind of mixed. I think, and I would be the same way. If you're 12-0, you're in the playoff conversation. You get caught up in that, and you think your team's pretty invincible, even if you have the little bit of fear that all fans have, especially of a team that's not been dominant. I mean, they're similar to us. They haven't been the dominant program for years and years, and so I think that's kind of where they're at.
Well, and in fairness, by the way, Parker, to me, I respect him for a lot of reasons. One of them is he is fair. What I see on Twitter, I don't listen to his podcast, but he's pretty objective. He's not he'll call people out for getting too high and mighty in his own fan base. He's got some governors on that for the most part. He's a reasonable guy.
I will say I've listened to their podcast several times. They were feeling it as far as being positive and maybe a little homerish as I've heard them this year. Which, I said, I don't blame them.
Yeah,
Derek listened to.
Yeah, this week they were. But here, and you mentioned the range there. Worst case scenario being for TCU being 10-point loss. Best case scenario being a 30-point win. And I know we had this conversation, so I figured to bring this up. I actually think if there's a team more likely to break this open and blow it out, I think it's Kansas State that would blow out TCU.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not saying that they will. I still think it's going to be I picked a 41-38 Kansas State win. I think it's going to be close. But if there's a team that can blow out the other, I think it's Kansas State that can blow out TCU. And a lot of the national guys have said this as well, like Andy Staples, all those guys.
Really?
And they're right. Kansas State's best football this year has been better than TCU's best football. Kansas State has a higher ceiling, actually. TCU has just been by far, and this is what they have over Kansas State easily, by far a more consistent football team than Kansas State.
So do you think K-State, Jimmy, do you think K-State's A game is better than TCU's A game?
I think it is with our defense and our special teams. We talked a little bit about special teams. Going into the first game, K-State special teams was struggling a little bit. We were ranked in the 40s in Brian Fremaw's metric, and TCU was in the top 10. We've since passed them. We're in the top 10 now. TCU is just outside the top 10. So the special teams are pretty even, but we've passed them. TCU's worst two special teams units are their coverage units, both kickoff cover and punt return cover. And they have touchbacks on less than 50% of their kickoffs. So Malik Knowles has been coming on, and our kickoff return unit seems to have figured it out the last few weeks. So I do think we will see a big kickoff return from K-State tomorrow, with at least to the 50, maybe even for a score.
And I would say Kansas State as a defense, their A game is probably behind Iowa State, so number 2 in the Big 12. The offense's A game is number 1. They're number 1 in the Big 12 right now. So you're basically, when you have your A game, you have the number 1 offense in the Big 12 and the number 2 defense in the Big 12. And what, number 2 special teams, number 1 special teams?
Yeah. Here's what I would say, too. You're talking about, like, consistency, right? In K-State has lacked that consistency. So if we're taking the entire year, yes, of course, obviously. But what has been different about these two teams? K-State has gone through the quarterback back and forth thing the entire year. This team with Will Howard, ever since that TCU game, it's hard to touch because the Texas game, and look, I hate to remind everybody again, I remember how conflicted I felt after the Texas game when I'm standing there and I saw Mason, I saw DY, I saw all you guys walking out of Veneer, and I was like, I really think they played the wrong quarterback, guys. Like, I feel like this game could have gone differently, and I feel like now with the data we have, let me play that Texas game with Will Howard and let's see how that thing goes. My point being, when it has been actually just the Will Howard offense and not having to deal with him being hurt at TCU and playing Jake Rubley or playing Adrian early in the year, working through his kinks, when it's been this team, they really haven't. They have been pretty much invincible. I guess I'm taking a lot of I'm cutting K-State a lot of slack here, saying like, well, you did have an injury to Will Howard in the TCU game, and you didn't play the right quarterback perhaps in the Texas game. But, I mean, outside of that like 3.5 or 4 games there, small sample size, but they've been pretty untouchable. They really have been.
Well, I mean, go ahead, Jimmy.
I mean, the offensive numbers we've talked about in Big 12 play, 3.2 points per drive. With Will Howard, only 4.27, I think, was the numbers I had. 57% of his drives are touchdowns. So that's hard to beat. 2/3 of the drives score because another 9% or so are field goals. So K-State's offense with Will Howard, I don't care if they've played defenses that may not be the best in the league with Will Howard at quarterback. I mean, although Baylor's a pretty solid defense itself, and TCU wasn't a bad defense either, the numbers they have produced with him at quarterback are pretty extraordinary, and it's not a tiny sample size now. It's 5 games. It's a bunch of drives. It's legitimately showing that the offense is a different monster with him at quarterback.
What is it that makes them different from what you see with Will Howard at quarterback? Are they doing things different schematically, or is it just Will Howard seeing the field?
The ratio is a bit different. With Will Howard, it's 5 to 6% quarterback run game, maybe 2 or 3 a game. With Adrian Martinez, it was 22 to 23% quarterback run game. The pass game is a little bit different, but the passing success rate is way up with Will Howard. It's to the upper 40s with Will Howard. It was the upper 30s with Adrian Martinez. But then I just think Will Howard makes throws because I don't think the scheme has changed as far as the pass route combos and all those things has changed a ton. But I still think Martinez's arm was never what it was before he got hurt. And I think Will Howard has shown, for whatever reason, this offseason he figured out the confidence to say, I'm going to make throws into windows that maybe are tighter. And we saw it with the touchdown to Cade Warner. His first touchdown of the season was a throw he would not have made last year. And then we've seen him make his worst throw was the pick 6 versus West Virginia. He came in 2 drives later and threw another throw almost exactly like that to Cade Warner that he caught. And so there's no fear. And I also think that he's seeing the windows of where the ball needs to go and anticipating coverages in a way that we just haven't seen before. And that opens up so much in your offense when you know your quarterback is going to make the right decision every time and is willing to make a throw into tight. The touchdown throw to Cade or to Sennett against Baylor, where he threw it right between the safety and the linebacker. And my first thought was, man, we were lucky. No, that was not luck. That was the right throw at the right time to the right spot.
If that throw happened last year, I would have said it was luck.
Yeah.
But now we've seen enough of a sample size that we recognize this isn't a fluke. He sees the field, and he's throwing the ball with confidence and delivering. You know, how many times from the over angle, the all-22 angle, do you see, you know, these throws he's unleashing before the guy breaks out of his route or is even looking for the ball yet? He's anticipating where his receivers are going to be, the spots. And the thing, like the last few weeks, there's chances where he's had a chance to run, and I've been yelling, run it. And he keeps his eyes downfield. He doesn't run it, and then he throws the ball and completes it for 20-plus yards. Like, I'm just really impressed with how he keeps his eyes downfield.
I'm glad he doesn't run it because he's not going to get that many yards.
Well, the throw to Wheeler even last week was the Wheeler one down the middle where Wheeler was wide open. That was Howard buying time because he broke up in the pocket. Yeah. The safety moved over because I think we had Knowles running the deep corner. And then Wheeler was left wide open in the middle of the field because the safety just thought there's no way he's going to throw it to Wheeler in the middle. Howard bought time. But the thing was, you saw him settle his feet, set his shoulders, and then make the throw. Even though it was a little bit short, he knew he was going to get it to where he needed to get it.
Similar to the Oklahoma State 4th and 10 to Cade Warner, right? And then also against KU, 4th to Phillip Brooks, a 24-yard pass. He ended up fumbling the next play strip. But and we got a question. We got a question coming in. Who's going to be the MVP tomorrow? What do you guys think? That's a question. That's a question. I'm sorry. I was cut off. I couldn't see it. That's a question for the people. Yeah. John, you do your thing. I'm sorry for jumping in there.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I think this is all very valid, and it's why, to me, that's what gives me the most optimism about it. I really feel like the K-State functioning with Will Howard for an entire game in Big 12 play is pretty unscathed right now, and I feel very, very good about that. Let me ask you a little bit more about the defense, like that side of the ball, K-State's defense against TCU's offense. I mean, a lot of the talk from TCU coming into this game has been about them getting more healthy, with Kendre Miller saying that he feels as fresh as he has in a while. I saw Sonny Dykes said he feels like that Johnston outside also feels as healthy as he has in a while. But when you look at that game analytically in particular, how do you feel like K-State matches up on that side of the ball?
I think the key will be to shore up our first half defense. You know, we've obviously seen
what is happening there.
We've seen us struggle in the first half the last several weeks. You go back to Texas, you go to West Virginia, you go to Kansas, and including the Baylor game, which we played good defense. The last 4 games we've given up over 3 points per drive in the first half, which is too much, obviously. I think some of that was the injuries, settling on who's going to play safety and getting those things figured out, and getting Daniel Green back to health. I think that's going to be the biggest key. Is the other thing about losing Daniel Green the first game is he wasn't healthy really for a couple stretches going into that game. We've actually seen Daniel Green flash and play with more speed, I think, the last couple games than maybe we have all season.
Jalen Daniels about that.
Yeah. So I think that will help a lot against Kendre Miller in their running game, with their inside zone schemes and their GT power schemes that they like to run. Hopefully you can get those flashes with Daniel Green making plays and making tackles, so they're not breaking plays. You know, Cole brought up over 4 yards per carry after contact.
Yeah, 4 yards after contact against K-State in that game, where K-State had him for maybe 2 yards, and you end up looking up and it's 2nd and 4.
That's got to be fixed.
Yeah, and K-State's obviously going to have Julius Brents and Daniel Green back for this game when they played much of that game without him, which is huge. They're also, though, going to be down Kobe Savage and Sasir Mason. How much of a factor do you think that plays against that offense, Jimmy, and adjusting without those veteran safeties?
Fortunately, we've had some time with other guys back there, but it's going to make a difference. I mean, it's going to be I don't know if we change the scheme, like you said. Do you play a little more too deep? Safeties, dropping 2 of those guys back there, hoping you can contain big plays, make TCU 8, 10, 12 play drives instead of giving up those explosives, because that's the danger with younger safeties that may not know what they're doing. They may get misaligned or not communicate well. We've heard the coaches talk a lot about communication is the key with this defense, and if you make mistakes there, that's where you give up that 50-yard, 60-yard touchdown run. So that'll be something to watch for sure.
Didn't K-State play a little more zone against KU, or are my eyes playing tricks on me? I felt like they did go to zone a lot more.
Yeah, I think they probably did more just because of – and part of that's KU's scheme. Is you want eyes when you're playing zone, you got eyes in the backfield, you got eyes on the quarterback. While Dugan will run it, he's not quite the threat Jalen Daniels is, and he doesn't run at the frequency that KU runs their quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see if we try to play more man, especially on the outside.
I think one of the biggest keys is going to get pressure on Duggan.
Yeah.
You know, because I think they're at like a 6.2 sack percent allowed, and K-State sacked him 4 or 5 times in that game in Fort Worth. And if you can put pressure on him and bang him up, I think he starts to panic a little bit. Really, that first half against K-State, he wasn't very good. K-State was getting pressure on him. You know, they held him on a turnover on downs where he looked a little bit rattled, and then things kind of flipped when the injuries continued to mount. So I think if K-State, Felix, and those guys can get after that offensive line, because they haven't been great at protecting the quarterback, I think there's an opportunity to force a turnover or two through that and making him force a mistake, rush a throw.
Well, you know, hopefully the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, is a factor in that. And I say that for all of our listeners in Austin, Texas. I just wanted to remind you that Felix Anudike-Uzomah is the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, because Texas fans are pretty salty about that. I don't, you know, this is kind of transitioning away from the analytics realm into my realm here, but needling Texas is something I enjoy quite a bit. Boy, between the groveling at the feet of Kansas last week to try and will the Jayhawks to a victory, to groveling at the feet of the Sugar Bowl to try and will their way in as an 8-4 team into the Sugar Bowl above K-State, to now just being big mad, and I mean big mad, that Jalen Ford was not the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Texas fans are hurting right now. DY, Texas fans, you got any thoughts on Texas fans?
Let them hurt.
Well, now they say Tips from Tressel says Felix is going to have 2 sacks tomorrow.
I love it.
So yeah, has he had a sack in his last 5 games? I feel like he had 7.5 sacks, I think, through the first 6 or 7 games, and I think he still sits there right now. And
yeah,
I mean,
7.5. Yeah.
I mean, he's been held 80 times since then, but you know,
at least 80 times.
Yeah, maybe they could get one of those called. Oh, look, there's a comment. Will they call holding against TCU? Good question. Texas fans think that the officials are refusing to call holding against them. I mean, look at what Felix has done. And speaking of which, Texas came into Manhattan and didn't get called for a single hold, I believe. So I don't really want to hear their bickering about holding and penalties. Like when I looked up the penalty things today, like 5 of the 9 games for Texas, their opponents had more penalties and more penalty yards against them. So the whole Big 12 out to get you narrative, I mean, I'm not here for that, Texas. I'm not going to listen to that.
Even if the Big 12 was out to get Texas, it's about damn time. I mean, Texas has been coasting on their reputation and being elevated because of that and the brand for years. Like,
just ask Mark Mangino.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
Just ask Nebraska in the 09 championship game where they added time to the clock and they got that break. So and look at the targeting call at the end of the Iowa State game this year. That could have gone either way, and Texas gets the benefit of that call. They probably lose the game if that's not called that way. So the whole it's just laughable. And they were complaining about officiating in the Baylor game on Friday. The only 4 penalties Texas got called for were false starts. They ran the ball 60 times and didn't get called for a hold all game. So.
It's a spoiled rich kid who got daddy's credit card taken away, and they're like, "What is this? I thought it was supposed to work. Well, I just got everything handed to me, and now it's not." And the other part about it that's great is like I don't know what they think life in the SEC is going to be like, but you're probably not getting any favors when Alabama, Georgia, LSU, like whoever else is involved from the SEC here. Hey, speaking of the SEC. I think we talked about this earlier on the pod. I think I kind of was like, we want Bama? We want Bama? Jimmy, do we want Bama? Do we want Bama?
Sure, why not? Why not? I mean, they're not that much better than us in the metrics, so I'll take them.
We'll see.
Plus, half their kids are going to opt out anyway. So, I mean, I'm not going to remember that, but we'll go beat them in the Sugar Bowl and enjoy it.
I mean, the situation basically is, if LSU loses in the SEC championship game, it will be Bama. If LSU wins, it will be LSU. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, the only other alternative that could be different from the approaches that you laid out would be if Bama can somehow back into the playoffs. And that would take a TCU loss to Kansas State probably convincingly, and also take a USC loss, and they're not running away from Utah at the moment.
It's true. That is true. Still 17 up?
No, 17 all, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, crazy.
Okay, well, we've all made our predictions, I believe, this week. Are you taking the Cats, Jimmy?
I am taking the Cats. I think I said 40-34. I think it is going to be a high-scoring game, but I think K-State finds a way to win it at the end, for sure.
Well, see, the Purple Theory podcast will be looking at this and being like, yeah, we listened to these guys this week, and they were all homers, picking K-State to win, and we're saying, homers. Did they give official predictions on the?
Yeah, they both picked TCU by 6 to 7 points. Okay. They were both close. They were both close.
I noticed the betting line is shifting a little bit in favor of the Cat. Not to the point of their favorites, but I think they're now +2. They were 2.5. The money line's plus 110.
+1 now. I've seen on some books.
Okay, I checked right before I came here. They were +2 on my service.
TCU was a 2.5-point favorite, now down to 1 even.
Wow. The Manbeck sharp money came in on the Cats.
It moved to 1.5 points today.
Interesting. Well, I wasn't able to check because FanDuel is not going to work here in Texas, right? You can't fire that thing up.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
I know.
Somehow gambling is not legal in Texas, of all things. That's shocking.
Yeah.
I got to say we're not in Kansas anymore. Just scratch that off.
Check that off the bingo card. Oh, all right. Let's get to some questions. What do we got, Tucker? Any injuries besides the corners we need to know about? All right, thank you. Shout out to Robbie. I appreciate Robbie. Helps moderate my YouTube chats.
Corners hurt? You said other than the corners?
I think I'm assuming safeties. I'm sorry. Yeah, I assume that means in addition to Sincere Mason and obviously Kobe Savage.
No, Drake Cheatham might have a club, I think. Sounds like.
Oh, yeah, he did. I remember seeing him with his hands at one point in the Kansas game.
He'll play, but I think he might be in a club.
Oh, neat.
How these
neat. I try to drag down Kendre Miller with a club on his hand. That's
I don't like that, DY.
That noise you hear is Utah taking the lead on USC.
Wow.
Well, you know what? I think K-State fans are cheering because you know what K-State fans are starting to think? They're starting to think about the playoff. The playoff. 538, whatever. What was the prediction?
There we go.
Well, USC is going to get knocked out.
Oh, yeah. Three loss Kansas State's getting in over 1 loss Ohio State. I forgot.
Well, to be fair.
Just easy there because I about to knock over my water.
I mean, Ohio State's doing this Big Ten thing where it's, we just coast in and beat the Iowas and I don't even know if they play the Rutgers of the world, the Marylands of the world. We just fart our way through the schedule that's got a bunch of rummies, and then we go line up and play Michigan and get smacked around. So I don't know. Does Ohio State really deserve to be in over K-State?
Well,
Ohio State doesn't deserve to get in.
They beat Notre Dame.
No, but they're in all seriousness, there's a strong argument to be made that if K-State wins tomorrow, they would jump Penn State, Tennessee.
They should.
Clemson.
Penn State can get all the way out of here.
Clemson, and you could make an argument they could jump Alabama. That puts them at 6.
Can we?
Jump Alabama? Why don't we jump Georgia while we're at it?
Why wouldn't you jump Alabama? You know what? If this USC loses this game, it's starting to get interesting. I'm starting to look at I'm going to be looking at 538s, and man, that's going to be like 80% K-State win with a K-State win 80% in the playoff, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I'll be watching.
I'm listen. I know. There's no way.
Could we mute his microphone?
You guys are just being too negative. I mean,
positive Cole up in the building.
Yeah,
that's right.
Positive Cole. All right, here's a good question from Ryan. Do you think we see Adrian in a package tomorrow?
No.
So, Adrian, do you have a better idea on whether or not he's going to even be available?
Well, I don't have a better idea on if he's going to be available. The package doesn't make sense because the package would be him as a runner.
Yeah.
Right? But he just hurt his leg.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I would think the bowl game, there's probably a good chance of that, right? Yeah.
One game left. Go hurt that leg again.
Yeah, well, I mean, you lay everything on the line last game, let him get out there for a few snaps as a change of pace. Yeah, I mean, I could certainly see that.
In New Orleans, you mean?
Yeah, New Orleans. Yeah, not tomorrow. I would like to see him suited up just as an emergency option. Even if it's stationary in the pocket, I just would feel more comfortable with the 5th-year senior that's been through it.
Than Jake Rubley?
Yeah, no knock on Jake Rubley, but I saw that in Fort Worth in person, and I just don't think he's ready. It's too much for him right now.
Good observation.
Yeah, that's the type of stuff you guys rely on me for, and I really point that out with that.
Hey, I mean, he did look great against South Dakota.
Another good observation.
Yeah. He looked great against South Dakota. No, I agree.
It's just funny after that South Dakota game. I think I saw some receipts of people pushing for Rubley to be over Will Howard. I mean,
How many times this year has the starting quarterback finished the game against TCU?
Less often than the inverse of that. Because it's been almost everybody in Big 12 play, right? Who has gone? I mean, Spencer Sanders made it all the way through, but then he was battered and bruised and done the rest of the year.
He made it all the way through, but he needed a hospital bed after.
Yeah.
Well, look, I envision TCU with just this hitman checklist like Billy Madison in the movie where they just scratch off names of every quarterback. They're just with lipstick taking off all the quarterbacks that they've taken out. We did have another question from a listener. That how does their defense compare to the last time they played the Wildcats?
Better.
So what do you guys think?
They're better. They've gotten better. In the metrics, they've moved up into the top 4 actually in the Big 12. So they've gotten better. But part of that, you just played Iowa State. You played some of the worst. I mean that happens. That factors in to both sets of numbers a little bit as who you played.
One of the things I noticed about them, Jimmy, is looking at the stats. They don't get after the quarterback much. I mean, their linebackers, 2 of their linebackers account for 11 of their 22 or 23 sacks on the year. Their defensive line has maybe 6 or 7 sacks in total.
Yeah, they're not a super havoc team either. They're low. They're ranked low in the havoc.
Their tackles for loss per game are very low. They don't force a lot of negative plays.
Yeah, I think they're in the bottom 2 or 3 of the Big 12 in tackles for loss. So they're not a big. Yeah, they're not a big havoc team as far as tackles for loss, sacks, those kinds of things. So. That is something that hopefully K-State can be a little more consistent. And that was one thing in the first game. I track success rate for I track every play, go back and chart it. In K-State's running backs, in our running game with the running backs in the last game, we only had like a 19 to 20% success rate. And that goes by how many yards you gain on first, second, third down, et cetera. So that's something that we have to be better at. I don't think we have to be a 50% success rate, but at least get in the 40s with our running game. I think that helps us out a bunch.
Because I think of that TCU game, Deuce had the 50-yard touchdown run that he busted, but outside of that, it was like 11 carries for 35 yards maybe.
He had another run for like 20, and then I think I went back and charted. We had like 10 to 11 runs that gained 2 yards or fewer in that game. So we've got to avoid that for sure.
Yeah. Staying on schedule. Matter of staying on schedule. The good news is, with the explosiveness of the offense, they can make up for something.
I've heard Derek and I were watching a show earlier, and all these prognosticators say, well, K-State's got to grind it out. They want a slow game, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I went and looked at the pace numbers. TCU runs just over 68 yards or plays per game. K-State runs just over 67. When it comes to seconds per play, TCU is at 27.5, which is 92 in the country. K-State is at 28 seconds per play, which is 98 in the country. Right. So the pace is essentially the same for both teams. It's not like TCU's not this hurry, play fast offense. They're kind of like us where they don't huddle a lot, but they're going to do check with me. They're going to call stuff at the line of scrimmage. They're going to do no huddle, but take their time. And so this thing that K-State needs to grind it out is just – I don't know where it comes from.
It's old and lazy.
It's a lazy Big 12. It's a lazy Big 12 take of, K-State's a team historically that slows it down. TCU scoring points. They must be a high-flying, high-paced offense, right? I heard it on ESPN this morning. I woke up, Brody and I were watching it, and Trevor Maddich of ESPN was saying,
is Trevor Maddich still doing hits on ESPN?
Yes, he was on there on ESPN on SportsCenter, and he said the reason he thought K-State could win is because they'll be the team that can have those long, sustained, drawn-out drives, keep TCU's offense off the field. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm looking at Jimmy's stats. They're number 3 explosive offense in the country. K-State relies on the big plays more than anybody. Over the last 6 games, 5 games, 22 passes of over 20 yards or more. Like, K-State, it's just a lazy take that clearly these guys don't watch the Big 12 that much. We're going to see that on College Game Day tomorrow. Those guys are just going to throw out the general stuff.
Maybe. This is why I'm excited to see Fowler and Herbstreit, because Fowler will do his homework on this. I think he'll
Fowler on the play on the call.
Yes, on the game instead of freaking Tim Brando. Somebody that knows what is going the hell on. But the real dividing line to me in the national narrative about this game is whether or not people realize what a difference Will Howard has made in the K-State offense.
No, that's true.
Because I think that is the thing. You still hear people talking about Adrian Martinez is out. As if that's a hindrance in this game. And nothing against Adrian again, but Jimmy's outlined the stats. The offense is much better. It's a totally different team. And so that, I think, to your point, Cole, tacking on to that is if you hear somebody talking like that, they don't know they have not paid close enough attention to this team.
And my other thing with College Game Day is I love Pat McAfee, but will he remember that Felix plays for K-State this time?
Yeah, hopefully he'll have some funny jokes about that. Yeah,
I
still remember sitting in the hotel room in Fort Worth that morning. Like, I was just in shock. I was trying to figure out what the hell just happened. So, actually, we were hoping I was going to try and get him on the podcast this week, actually, but I knew it was a long shot. I thought we could have some fun with him about the Felix thing, but.
And he would have fun with it because
he would.
He's that kind of guy.
He
had
cool,
fun with it toward the end of the show, even. So.
Yeah, no, I've got no beef, no issues with Pat McAfee at all.
I got beef with Desmond Howard. He clearly does no research and is going to pick against K-State tomorrow for the 10th time out of 11 this year, probably.
I've had beef with Desmond Howard for a while,
for years, for years. Yeah, Desmond, he does. He has K-State like 1-10 this year. He also had a playoff that was like Baylor, Pittsburgh, Texas A&M, and Michigan. So, Michigan.
Yeah, he got one.
1 out of 4.
Good thing he was a homer, I guess.
Yeah, the homerism actually worked out there. Everything else, not so much. Pittsburgh.
Well,
Pittsburgh after losing Jordan Addison, and Kenny Pickett. I don't know, man.
Hey, Pittsburgh teams, they got 7-5 this year.
Are they? They were bad at one point.
They got to 7-5 at one point.
Let's look this up. I need to know.
I'm making fun of Pittsburgh, but they were probably better than Texas A&M.
Well, Pittsburgh came back from 10 down against West Virginia, which turned
Pittsburgh's 8-4.
Oh
boys.
my goodness! Why are you throwing shade at Pittsburgh?
Don't throw shade at Pittsburgh. Hey, Texas A&M, you're the laughing stock of that.
That's true. And we're 9-3 in the next team in the college football playoff rankings, as far as Cole says.
Well, we're next up. Yeah.
Well, USC's down 7.
Does that mean Pittsburgh's in the running?
Pittsburgh, no, they don't have the resume. The metrics don't show as much love to the Panthers. All right,
the ACC is dog. You know what?
Hey, I do want to say something. When we were talking about the luck factor for TCU, it's like I think about the game by games of like K-State. Comparative scoring is always a dangerous thing to go down, but I think K-State has a lot more dominant performances. Getting back to that point, like you think about Oklahoma State, Manhattan, 48-0. TCU had to come back from 17 down and take that game to double overtime to win. Texas Tech was beating TCU in Fort Worth in the fourth quarter. And then, obviously, the score looks worse than it was. The TCU flipped the script. They got a couple fortunate calls in that game that kept their drives alive, and they end up winning 34-24. But that was a game they were trailing in the fourth quarter at TCU.
Had to come back to beat KU.
Right, and Baylor. Had to kick a field goal at the end. Well, K-State beat that same Baylor team just a couple weeks before in Waco, 31-3, and thoroughly dominated them. So
even SMU went down to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So
and Colorado, like I said in week 1,
they were only up by that was a Chandler Morris led. We need to Sonny Dykes. Just like Lance Leipold with Jalen Daniels.
Iowa State? They beat Iowa State by 48.
Are we really going to compare Iowa State when they were 0-2 in the Big 12 to when they were going into that 4-8? They finished 4-8.
Compare teams a little bit like that.
Wearing black uniforms in a night game at home.
Yeah, it's a lot different from Ames versus a team that mailed in the season.
We beat Iowa State 10-9.
We need to talk about Sonny Dykes, how he picked Chandler Morris over Max Duggan. All right. That guy can't coach. Well, you can't evaluate talent.
This is actually an interesting conversation.
I heard also technically.
What are you doing coming here with all these negative counterpoints?
I'm just playing devil's advocate that is relevant here. Kansas State maybe didn't have the right quarterback either.
That's actually a very good point. I mean, so what do you think about climbing here?
All right, whatever. K-State's quarterback room overall, 19 touchdowns, 3 interceptions thrown. Will Howard, Adrian Martinez. That's the first team.
Nope, you're missing an INT, buddy.
That's Jake Rubley. I'm not counting it.
He's in the quarterback room.
No, I was counting only Will Howard.
How would have K-State fans responded if we brought in Adrian Martinez and Will Howard started against South Dakota?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
How would they have responded if Jalen Daniels was named All Big 12 second team? Oh, wait, that happened.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not losing a ton of sleep over it. I will take Will Howard next year to make the All Big 12 team over Jalen Daniels.
I don't think it should be Will Howard either, but I don't think it should be Jalen Daniels.
No, I mean, that was ridiculous. That was dumb.
You know how many yards he threw against Big 12 teams?
It's not much. I remember seeing the stats compared to Will. It's
less than 800.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's about the scheme with Kansas, which, by the way, I think is a worse thing for us. I would rather it just be one player. They just are. The scheme is really good on offense.
Give it to Dylan Gabriel. I know Dylan Gabriel.
No, they need to give it to Andy. How do you say that dude's last name? Kansas offensive coordinator. Kotelnicki. Andy Cottle. They need to give it to that guy. Like, he's the one. He made Jason Bean an effective Big 12 quarterback. Like, that guy should win Big 12 Coach of the Year.
Colin Klein.
Well, okay.
Why aren't you giving Colin Klein any love? He's had 2 exemplary quarterbacks better than Jalen Daniels.
He has, but he also didn't have to work with Jason Bean. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, you had to work with Will Howard, who you thought was not good at all.
Okay, all right. Can we stop with that? I've atoned for my sins. Okay, I've already done it.
Hey, yeah, he awakened Will
I
Howard,
did. I
so,
motivated
him. Yeah, that was
motivated.
I mean, I was very angry again in Fort Worth when John threw that shade at Will Howard, and then Adrian got hurt in the first
He
series.
didn't do it at Fort Worth. He did it at Big 12 basketball.
Well,
yes,
it was
he
the
did,
week leading up
to the TCU
It was leading up to that
game.
game.
As I think about TCU and Luck too, I think about the West Virginia game. It was 34-31 with 30 seconds left. K-State won that game by 17, up 23 going away. I mean,
I wonder what Will Howard was thinking when he got caught shade at a basketball media day, not even a football one.
I doubt he saw it.
I'm gonna guess that Will Howard didn't
Oh,
hear
no.
about it, but I don't know. Maybe on his locker room when he showed up to practice the next day, it's
They
like
probably-
printed off sheet of paper, and it's like
John
at
Kurtz.
least Will Howard's not playing quarterback today. John Kurtz, 3 mob. It was just taped on his locker.
They put your face up there in the locker room.
They did.
Your face is in every locker, just like Jerome Tang
So-
put the Big 12 standings in the locker room.
We can credit John Kurtz for the Big 12 championship. There.
I mean,
Kansas State is
seriously,
about to win.
for real,
True.
we can.
They should send you a ring.
Well, listen, I don't know what my ring size is, but I'll just DM me, K-State football. Just DM me. I'll make sure. We would settle for one of our 3-mile clips. Another thing Cole and I were talking about on the way there. We would settle for one of our 3-mile clips, making it in a hype video.
Or
I mean,
I would settle for an Elevate shirt. Last
That
night.
too.
I don't want to be a little bitter, but today's hype video featured that 24/7 guy that was talking about him making it potential or winning the Big 12 title. We all 3 picked K-State on the preseason pod to be in the Big 12
But
championship.
here's the thing that guy did. He took it a step further
Yeah, he
and was
picked
like,
him to win it.
and K-State. No, he was like, and K-State is going to be the new power in the Big 12.
Why
So
didn't
he went
we
a-
go
he went a
aggressive
step
and say
further.
that?
Yeah, he went
I
a step
said
further.
college football runs through Manhattan, Kansas. What the hell? How does that not make the hype video clip?
Okay. Hang on.
Gotta be on the hype video.
If they win tomorrow, that has to be K-State. That has to be in the season-ending video of the Big 12 championship, the new stand-up for the
We'll
champions
have
or whatever.
Tucker cut that clip.
It has to be in there. Yes, Tucker, just email it to like our lackey at KStateSports.com. Let's get that clip there. Cole saying.
How many alcoholic drinks did that take?
I was completely sober. I don't know what you're talking about. Besides those random people
just
that were
ask
trying
Texas fan that was trying to liquor you up a little
I
bit.
didn't appreciate how much he peer pressured me. No means no. I told him no like 6 times, and he just kept forcing me. So I took the tequila shot, and it was gross and disgusting, and then went on the air 2 seconds later. So
and professed that Manhattan, Kansas was the center of the college football universe.
and all I actually meant was that college football in the state of Kansas runs through Manhattan, because I got on the KU tangent about them beating Duke that day while K-State wins at OU. But I took it a step farther by mistake, and it turns out it does because they're a playoff team. Because after they win tomorrow and after USC loses this game, when they don't convert here on this 2nd and 6, and this is picked off and ran into the end zone by Clark Phillips of Utah. Oh my God!
That was close.
That almost happened.
Yeah, that's right.
It was Clark Phillips too. No, it was Reed. It was
Oh,
Reed.
Sorry, I can't get the right corner, but he's one of their best corners, Clark Phillips.
Wow.
So, man, I'm going to make some bold predictions tomorrow, right?
Look at
K-State.
that, dude. That was a pick 6 written all over it, man.
K-State.
Like, that was-
Book it. Pick 6 tomorrow. Max Duggan. Strip sack, too.
Who?
Who's getting the strip sack or the pick 6?
How about both?
Somebody said Julius Brent's MVP earlier. Now they're saying you're on a
of
heater.
course.
I'm on a
heater.
heater. Well, you know,
Oh,
I'm
let's-
feeling myself a little bit. You know,
I want
like,
Brents to get one, man. I want Brents to get a pick 6 in a K-State uniform. before
that
he's
feels good. You know
Yeah.
what, though? I think
We
Brent's
not talk Cole up. He doesn't need it.
Brent's is going to put his helmet on that football and knock it loose, though, tomorrow on a big hit, I think. So, I think Echo's going to get a pick 6.
done. Okay.
Echo's
I
due.
that.
Echo
Echo is
doesn't
due
have an
because
interception.
Echo's getting jobbed by the officials all year, man.
Daniel
He's got
Green.
some bad calls. Oh, Daniel Green. Okay.
Wow, we're going to Daniel Green. You know, he almost had one against Tulane, but he ran out of steam.
Was it? He had an interception. Was that
Yeah.
Tulane? No, those. What about the
He had
recent
two.
one?
He had 2 interceptions.
Did he have one
against
of the
Missouri.
17 Brady Cook interceptions?
Yeah, he had one against Missouri.
Okay.
Well, it was Abraham, or when they.
Oh, they threw.
Oh, they did
intercept-
switch quarterbacks. You're right.
Poor Tucker. He's got to hear this again. We just always find a way to first shade him a zoo.
Oh, USC punted. Looks like K-State's in the playoff after tomorrow.
All right. I mean,
Boydo going to get one there. Matthew says that, so agree.
Got one in there.
And we know the Boydos listen to the pod, so shout out to the Boydos.
Cole is my spirit. Man.
Oh my gosh! Quit loving him up.
That's right.
You guys got to stop. Yeah, you guys got to stop. This man is trying to send K-State to the playoff. Okay.
Keep it coming. Just keep it coming, guys. It boosts my ego. I'd like to save all of these clips. No, it drives my wife crazy when anyone ever compliments me.
Well, okay. Here, Cole, I will tell you this. If we're talking about hype videos, if K-State does win by 30 tomorrow and make it into the playoff, your clip, I'm sure, will be in the hype video because there was nobody else saying that. There is no 24/7 guy saying that, so your clip will make it.
We'll film our own little hype video after that tomorrow. I mean, I might just do another one. So I might get very boisterous.
You're going to put Tucker to more work?
I mean, I'll just send it on my phone to Tucker. It'll just be John holding the phone and me shouting loudly.
Yeah.
So, no, it's more authentic if it's the original, from back then.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Man, if they beat Alabama, though, in the Sugar Bowl, too,
Watch out.
clip can live on
Oh,
forever.
hey, Kurt, how about you want to debate your little Twitter question that I disagree with you on vehemently?
well, we don't
What's the
even
word?
really disagree. Like we land on the same side.
Oh yeah, but you put too much stock into a Bama win in the Sugar Bowl.
Well, Cole and
It's
I
not
were
close.
Cole and I were debating this. I mean,
It's
Cole,
not
I
close.
don't think Cole's. I think
Well,
Cole's
I want
pretty in
Jimmy. I
lockstep.
want Jimmy's opinion because
Okay.
the reason
Jimmy's on my side.
Oh, okay. Well, like I do value conference championships more, but
Yeah, I mean, look. Okay, let's explain the question. Okay, the question was I asked it on Twitter, and DY, I would also profess to you the fact that I got about 200 responses to it, literally. Would
I thought you
would
were
just say
blaming
that
me.
it's a debate. Like people, and it was, I don't know, I would say probably 70-30 Big 12 championship versus Bama win. But I said if you could only get one, which one would you rather have, the Big 12 championship win or a win over Bama? And I phrased it that way because I don't want people to get it twisted. I'm not saying a Sugar Bowl win in general because bowl games, even if it's the Sugar Bowl, which is really nice, and that's obviously a step above what K-State has been, bowl wins are not truly that meaningful these days. But it's beating Bama. It's the recognition of beating Bama versus Big 12 championship. I mean, I would take the Big 12 championship. Like, flags fly forever. It's going to be on the side of the stadium. I care more about it personally anyway. But, I mean, my thought was beating Bama, even if they are depleted, even if they are down guys, that's going to earn you some sort of cachet when you're going on the recruit. I was thinking more like just impressing recruits, wowing people, and your national brand getting out there a little bit more by beating Bama versus a game that Paul Feinbaum says tomorrow no one's going to be watching anyway. But I at least just thought
he changed his mind on that.
You're right. Well, because someone literally, it was a hostage video where someone, from ESPN had a gun to his head. I was making the point. I think there's at least a discussion to be had there. I would take the Big 12 championship. That's all I was saying to you. I don't really.
To paraphrase a K-State coach at one point in time, why settle for one when both are available?
Well, that is true. That's
That's what I would say. Just go do both.
Well, okay. So here, the floor is. I think I've explained our case.
I take the Big 12 title.
I say it because of Alabama's name just carries more weight. Now, if it was like if you were playing like Kentucky in the Sugar Bowl, a top 10 Kentucky
even
team
LSU, I don't think LSU does nearly as much. It's just Bama. I mean,
K-State beating Bama would carry a lot, and it's the last game of the year, so people tend to remember that more. I would take both, and then if you get both, is it the best season in K-State football history if they win both games? When you look at the overall resume,
yes, I would say yes.
They'll finish the highest in the polls, right? If they beat Alabama and TCU, they'd be a top 3.
I think, 97, we'd have to go look at what they finished in 97. That would be the.
Would they have to finish 5 because of the playoff? Is that what you're saying, DY?
I just don't know if they'll jump that much.
Let's look. 1997
What I will
final.
say is that I've seen.
They finished 11-1.
I know of teams that have beaten Alabama in a bowl game before. An Alabama team coached by Nick Saban. And
who did they lose to?
They lost to Utah.
That's right. And the Sugar Bowl, actually.
It's not like Utah got this huge recruiting respect jolt, right?
That was
Urban
Meyer.
That was 2009, though. I mean, that was before Bama was really Bama.
Was that Urban Meyer coach?
It was 2009 because I remember Andy Ludwig was the offensive coordinator for Utah, who then was the offensive coordinator for Snyder for about 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I was excited. Yeah. We got Charlie Dickey and Ludwig from the staff that beat Bama in the Sugar Bowl. And then
I don't think that's an apt comparison because Bama was still on the come up. Like, they haven't been established. But I think
you guys are putting way too much into what one game, one win means in recruiting. Just from my, I guess, experience covering recruiting, a Big 12 championship would be more significant on the recruiting trail than a win over Bama.
That's interesting. I would think to the general kid out there, no matter where you're recruiting, the Bama thing would resonate a little bit more than a Big 12 championship.
I don't think so. Now, here's the funny thing. And in general, I think you might be onto something a little bit. And I know you said win over Bama and not a win in the Sugar Bowl, but people pay so little attention to these bowl games that aren't in the playoff anymore that plays into it for me. No one gives a crap about a Sugar Bowl that's not a part of the playoffs.
I think it does help that it's the day of the playoff games, right? It's 11 a.m. day of.
But I just the kids that matter, the recruits, like they don't know who won what bowl game or who beat who other than the 2 semifinal games. That's it.
Do you have something else there, Cole?
I do think this. We talked about this earlier. I do think this staff would be in a much better position to take a conference championship and turn it into something to build upon and not be 500 or worse 3 years later, which we saw last time we won conference championship.
You're right.
Twice.
That is crazy. I started thinking in my head, I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Snyder was great, but you're like, no, actually in 03 and 2012, that happened the same way.
Within 3 years, we were, 500.
That's absolutely correct. And also, I think the biggest value in going to the Sugar Bowl, it's not really recruiting in general, like you're talking about with high school, JUCO, and transfers. It's
portal.
That if you're going to the Sugar Bowl, you have a less likely chance that your guys are opting out. Because let's be honest, we're talking about Bama opting out. There's a couple of guys on Kansas State where opting out could make sense, and it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is from Kansas State fans if that comes to fruition, because that's going to make sense. But playing in a Sugar Bowl, maybe that mitigates it a little bit. But
if they're playing Bama, like, is Felix really going to sit out if they're playing Bama in the Sugar Bowl? Like, I think that's the point you're trying to make.
No, because
right?
that's going to draw scouts' eyes. Those guys aren't going to opt out for K-State, I don't think, in that situation.
You just never know, though. They're going to do what their agent tells them to do.
Yeah. I mean,
they're not going to do what they want to do.
I actually agree with Derek. Like, I still think that would be a threat. I think it would be a threat.
But going to the Sugar Bowl helps mitigate it, which is what I was saying. So you're right, but it doesn't completely erase it because they're going to listen to their agent no matter what. On the other end of it, you have a longer time. Look, the transfer portal window opens on Monday, December 5th, and I think it runs into a certain date in January. Kansas State will have longer to talk some of their players into staying because some of those guys, they're going to take that free trip to New Orleans. They're not going to jump into the transfer portal right away because of it. Yeah, so Kansas State also has a longer time to keep some of the roster. Some of these teams are losing kids already. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah. Right? Oh, it's all over the place.
I almost said it's a pandemic. It kind of is.
Iowa already has a new quarterback.
Yeah, Iowa already has a quarterback. But Kansas State, they're playing for the Big 12 championship on Saturday. Then the portal opens on Monday, but then they have the Sugar Bowl. I mean, there is a lot of incentive for the players from that roster to stay on that roster. And to not enter the transfer portal if they're going to until after the Sugar Bowl, because the window is long enough where they can go later. So really the benefits of going to the Sugar Bowl aren't necessarily like, hey, high school recruits, look at us in the Sugar Bowl against Bama, we might win. No, it's like we have a longer time to keep our players, and it mitigates the potential ramifications because there is a few players on Kansas State's roster where, just like Alabama, opting out will make sense, at least if you talk to their agents.
That's a very good point. That's a really, really good point all the way around. If anybody cares, K-State finished 8th in the final 1997 AP poll, and I'm a little upset about it because they're behind 2 lost teams. They're behind Tennessee, who should have played them in '98. UCLA, Florida,
North Carolina. What the hell?
Yeah, North Carolina was 11-1 that year.
Who the hell they have?
I think that was Mac Brown. It was 98 Max. I think 98 was Mac's first year at Texas.
Was that Julius Peppers? The end on that
Probably.
team? I had a Julius Peppers jersey.
Who the heck's scoring for them?
I have no idea. I can't name their quarterback.
Is it Ronald Curry that played football
UCLA?
and basketball?
UCLA, that was McCown, wasn't it?
No, I was talking about North Carolina.
But UCLA was Kim McNown or Deshaun Foster.
Yeah, running back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Well, there's also a winning a Big 12 championship with signing day, December 21st? There's more of the immediate recruiting jolt just from that, right? I mean, you've got a championship. You're trying to flip some kids here at the last second, and you got a and you're going to the Sugar Bowl. You can flaunt that. Signing day being wrapped up before that Sugar Bowl.
Guess what? I know this might blow your guys' minds.
Oh, he's breaking some recruiting news. What?
No, this might blow your guys' minds, but this is another, I think, arguing point for me in this. I bet that the ratings for the Big 12 championship will be higher than the ratings of the Sugar Bowl.
Oh, I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
That goes into it.
I thought you were going to say that they're going to be the highest of tomorrow, like top the SEC.
I saw it was
some people SEC will be still be higher.
Second highest, I bet.
It was 4.8 million last year. I would like. Can we push 6 with this thing? Can we push 6?
Yeah, I think so. One, you're going to have a lot of people watching
Columbus
just to see TCU's fate. Right?
Columbus,
yeah. And Alabama. If USC loses this game, Alabama fans are tuned in.
Yeah.
You're right. Actually, yes, you're right.
They're rooting for K-State to win by 17, 21 points, win in dominant fashion, and they could sneak in then. They'd make their argument in their case.
Kansas State will have very few fans within the Big 12, but they'll have a whole heck of a lot of fans outside the Big 12.
I'll make a bold prediction. I think it'll approach nearly 10 million.
I think it's a little high.
That feels high to me.
I don't think the SEC barely got over 10 last year.
It's going to be that. This game's going to get a lot of attention because it's a playoff game. I mean, Kansas State, TCU are playoff teams. So
LSU, Alabama got 9.
You guys forget that college football runs through Manhattan, Kansas.
It's a quarterfinal.
Watching.
You're right, Cole. The unofficial quarterfinal.
Yeah, it's a playoff game.
Well, I mean, I feel like we've hit twice now the point in the show where Cole says K-State's a playoff team, so that probably means it's time to go.
Yeah, Tucker's like, let's cut him off. Let's cut him off before he goes too much in again.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, hey, speaking of Tucker, we appreciate him a lot. Drove all the way up here. Yep. Down. We're down. Drove all the way down here to set up, get everything ready to go, keep us on the air, and bring it to everybody here. So we greatly appreciate his work, as always.
He also was setting everything up while John and I were playing Pop-A-Shot over there, and Tucker's sweating it out, setting up all the equipment, running cords. So that wasn't a good look for us. Some of the people called us out on us. Some of our listeners noticed that John and I just shot some hoops while Tucker put in the work.
Who got the highest score out of all the Pop-A-Shot games we played?
Well, so aggregate score, I outscored you by 18 to 20 over the 2 games. So
he's using soccer rules now.
He beat me. I beat him 44 to 24, which was embarrassing. 24.
Hey, go.
And then 55 to 53, he bought me. But I don't even think it counted one of my shots. There was an error on the machine. So
go USA tomorrow, by the way. Yeah.
That's right. Cole was just railing on soccer guys earlier, too, and now he's trying to hit me with aggregate.
I don't give a shit about the soccer game tomorrow. All right? Just to be frank, I do not care. So I'm focused on a Big 12 championship, and I hope everyone watches College Game Day instead and boosts the ratings for Kansas State's brand in that game.
What you're saying is you're laser focused?
I'm laser focused on the Horned Frogs.
He hates America.
I'm picking USA 2-1.
All right, look.
2-1.
You got some analytics for us on that?
No, I know zero about soccer.
I hope I didn't turn off some of our 3-mall soccer listeners. But
I do like watching it during the World Cup. I even bought a USA soccer shirt this year.
I did
for the first soccer gear I've ever bought in my life.
Okay.
2-1. I like 2-1 over Netherlands. Playing the Netherlands. Right. Holland.
I mean, here's my problem. Dutch. This whole Qatar thing, like why did we have to go somewhere where we're doing this conflicting with college football season? I would love to watch it in the summer. I don't have the bandwidth right now. I don't have the bandwidth. I'm not going to be focused on a soccer game 2 hours before K-State plays for the Big 12
championship.
Think
about it this way. If we win, we might get to play Lionel Messi.
Who's that? Where's he play? Italy?
And we appreciate our hosts here at BoomerJack's Grill in Arlington. Thank you to everybody who came out and hung out with us again. Appreciate the work of Tucker. Appreciate all you guys who have hung out here. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. All right. Make sure you like the video, leave us a comment. All that stuff helps. Again, I read you off the details earlier about, let's see. I want to make sure I get this right. About the raffle tickets. We have the raffle tickets. So, okay, you can, through KCSN, purchase 1 ticket for $20, 10 for $100 to try and get your hands on the Deuce Vaughn autographed football. Make sure that you do that. It's raising money. Holiday raffle and toy drive. All the money goes to Operation Breakthrough's Christmas store. So it's going to help kids have a great Christmas. We're looking to raise $20,000 at $16,000 right now. So like and subscribe to the video and the channel. Make sure that you get involved.
Field goal is good.
10-point lead for Utah. Looking good. A lot of eyeballs going to be on the Cats tomorrow. It will be great. And we thank you for coming along for the ride with us. So with that, we bid you adieu. Thank you to everybody once again. We appreciate you all. Good night and go Cats.